My name is Adebayo. Early in the year, I gained admission into 4 top universities for a master's in law: Columbia University, UC Berkeley, Georgetown University, and New York University. And for 2 of those universities, I was awarded a partial tuition scholarship. I'm currently a lawyer at Templars, where I work in the energy and projects team. I'm also an environmentalist, and I run an environmental nonprofit organization known as Earth Plus. Eventually, I accepted the admission to New York University and was also granted a $25,000 partial tuition scholarship. When I made my announcement on social media, a number of people messaged me privately indicating that they needed tips on how to get into these top schools. Prior to this time, I had not realized that this was a big need. Eventually, on realizing that, I decided to do this video to explain how people can get into top schools because they need to know this. So I'll be sharing 7 steps to getting into a top school of your choice. Follow me today. Step 1, ask yourself whether you need a master's. The first step to applying for a master's is indeed whether you need a master's. Now, in this video, I'll be talking mostly about an LLM, but this can also be applied across any postgraduate degree you're intending to take. In Nigeria, our climate today, a master's is a great to have, but it is important to ask yourself, do I need a master's? Why does one need a master's? A master's, as the name goes, is typically to master a certain area that you have decided you're interested in. So one of the first reasons you might need a master's is because you found a niche area in law that you have decided you want to become a master in. A master's is great for such reason. A second reason could be that you intend to get into an organization that requires a master's as one of the requirements for getting in. I understand that many international organizations require a master's for people to get in. That might be a reason. Again, it's possible that you want to pivot into another field. Perhaps you were in civil litigation as a lawyer before, and now you want to go into law business. So you want to do a law and business LLM. That could be a reason for taking a master's program. So the first question to ask yourself is, do I need a master's? If you're able to answer this question and assure yourself that indeed one of these reasons is why you're applying for a master's, then by all means go for it, because a master's is expensive for one. You can spend between $40,000 to $70,000 on the tuition alone for a master's program. That's somewhere around 20 to 25 million naira at the current exchange rate, or sometimes it could be more, and this is just for the tuition. So you have to consider very carefully if a master's is essential for your career path, either in terms of you specializing, or in terms of you requiring it for entering an organization, or in terms of you pivoting into another line. But either way, upon deciding that you do need a master's, then you move to step 2. Step 2, ask yourself when you need a master's. So upon deciding from step 1 that you do need a master's, the next question is, when do I need it? Typically, I'll advise that before you take a master's, you spend at least 1 year having work experience. It's not really advisable to finish your undergrad and just go into a master's as though it's an extended undergraduate program. For a master's to be beneficial to you, it would be great to have had at least a year's worth of work experience. It also helps you to interact better when you get to the master's program, be more useful to yourself and to the entire class as well. So, in terms of asking yourself, when do I need a master's? It's best to do a master's after a year at the very least or more of work experience. For example, schools like the Lagos Business School require at least 2 years for a master's program, a master's in business administration. Many other schools have fundamental requirements of at least a year's worth of work experience before you can proceed with their master's program. It also helps in the application process, as they are likely to consider the fact that you have a bit more experience and can be useful in terms of engagement in the master's class. Step 3, research the schools. Now, I understand that you probably want to go to one of the top schools that you've heard in the past, the Harvards, the Cambridge, the Oxford, the NYUs. But it's important that you spend time researching the schools. By all means, list out the schools that you intend to go to because they're top schools. Do proper research on the websites of each of the schools to understand what they stand for and determine if these schools fit into your career path. For instance, should you be interested in a master's degree in international tax law, it will be better for you to go to an NYU as opposed to a Harvard, an Oxford, or a Cambridge, because NYU is reputed for this program across the world. So understand the fact that you have to look at the school beyond the school being a top school and ask yourself, does this school fit into my career path? Does it fit into the jobs that I want to get after the master's? Does it fit into what I want for myself, particularly with respect to this course? Those are the things you should research. Take, for instance, certain schools are considered for certain things. Yale, when you mention that, people think academia. So people interested in the future of academia, in lecturing, becoming professors, go to Yale. People interested in business will go to NYU, because beyond NYU being a school reputed for that, it sits in the heart of a very bustling business environment and will promote the career and interests of whoever is attending NYU. Stanford is reputed for its science, technology, and research. And so someone going to Stanford is likely to get the mix of law, science, tech, and research. An LLM in tech law, for instance, would be great at Stanford. You also have to consider the scholarship opportunities for each school. A school like Stanford, for instance, does not have a specific LLM scholarship. Other schools might have scholarships from the institution. Others might have scholarships from outside the institution. For instance, people applying to Cambridge, Oxford, and other schools in the UK can apply for the Commonwealth Shared Scholarship, the Commonwealth Scholarship, the Chevening Scholarship, sometimes the MasterCard Foundation Scholarship. These are scholarships available to those applying to these schools. So these are the things you should be researching at the point where you are searching for schools. What school fits my interest and is also a top school? What do I intend to do after my master's? Do I intend to settle down in that country? Do I intend to come back to my country? In coming back to my country, does this master's fit right where it's supposed to fit in? My career path, does this master's provide me with a strong network of alumni? Does this provide me with that possibility of getting the right job, the right internship, the right fellowships? All of these are considerations when doing your research. Let's go to step 4. Step 4, note the timelines and the application process. This is very important. I should mention though before I continue that it's great to apply to as many schools as possible. This increases your chances of getting into one of them. But in doing this, ensure that you have researched all the schools properly and that you are applying to schools that you would enjoy going to even if you get any one of them. Now, with respect to researching the timelines and the process, different schools have different timelines and different processes. With schools in the UK, it's a bit more extended. So if you're applying to a school in the UK to start in the fall next year, for instance, you could apply anytime from now up till the middle of next year. However, with some schools in the UK, it closes as early as December, some as early as January. With schools in the US, however, for the most part, they close in December or slightly earlier than that. A few though do spill till January or February, like Georgetown University, although that also has an earlier application timeline. These are the things you need to know when doing your research about timelines and the application process. With respect to application process, I'll speak strictly to schools in the US since that is where I apply to. Schools in the US use a platform, most of them use a platform known as LSAC. That platform typically takes everything that you want to send to the school, the transcripts, the recommendation letters, and every other thing. Now, you should check very carefully whether or not this school uses the LSAC platform and what it uses it for. Ensure that you know this on time so you know when and where to send the documents you're sending. I should backtrack a bit and talk about your transcripts and your recommendation letters. These are two important things that you need for your application process that do not necessarily come from you. One comes from the school, the other comes from your recommenders. This is what you should do regarding these two items. Start on time. Some of the time, with transcripts, you can never really tell when your school is going to release it after making the application. So do well to apply for your transcript at very least 6 months before you start your application to the school. And as school applications mostly open in the summer, of the year before the year you're to attend, it's important to start towards the early part of the year, the first quarter perhaps, to start applying for your transcripts, both from the undergraduate university and from the law school. As soon as you have your transcript in, that's a win. Now understand that because you have the LSAC platform, and with some schools you have their own portal, you have to determine where exactly you're sending your transcripts, which is why the research for the schools has to start on time. Again, with the reference or recommendation letters, you should start speaking to your recommenders as early as possible. 3 months before you start your application is a nice time to talk to them, so you can give them ample time to prepare your recommendation letters. Many people have lost out on applying to schools because they could not get the recommendation letters from their recommenders. Sometimes you might have to change your recommender, so ensure that you reach out to them on time so they can let you know if they are willing to do it or not, and you can send timely reminders before the due dates. With respect to scholarships, do well to research what scholarships are available. Like I mentioned earlier in the previous step, there are some scholarships that are external and some the school offer. This should also inform your decision. How generous is this school? What kind of endowment do they have? Do they have need-based or merit-based scholarships? All of these should be taken into consideration during the application process. So that's step 4. Now, step 5. Prepare your application material. This is really the essence of everything. After all said and done, deciding you want to have a master's, now, researching, and finally, it's time to make that application. What do you do when preparing your application material? Now, typically schools would request certain items from you. They would ask for your personal information. They'll ask for your academic background, your work history, if you have any. They'll also probably ask for a research proposal or some academic material that you have written in response to an academic question. Your transcripts and your recommendation letters, certainly. And one important thing, your personal statement. We'll talk a bit about your personal statement, but let me just say something about your work history. For your other personal information, you probably will not have a problem with that. With respect to your work history, if given the opportunity to narrate the kind of tasks you have worked on during the time you worked, it's great to highlight tasks that refer to or that have something to do with what you're applying for. For instance, if you have worked in a particular position, and in that position you worked in both an energy and an intellectual property role, and you're applying for an energy LLM, it will be great to highlight the task that you did while in the energy role, because that will be helpful to what you're applying for. So try and be more specific with respect to the tasks you worked on. Use active verbs when describing those tasks, and let it show that you do have some experience working on the kind of tasks that are related to the master's program you're applying for. So let's talk about your personal statement. A key part of your application is your personal statement. It's what they're looking to read. It's what differentiates you from every other person applying to the program. It's you blowing your trumpet. And please do so unreservedly. They want to hear about you. They want you to tell them what is your background, what are your interests, what are your influences, what led you to this point where you're applying for a master's, why the university, why this course, why at all are you interested in a master's in the first place, what happens afterwards, how are you going to use what you learn here for your career, how are they going to be a part of your story. This is what they want to know when they ask for your personal statement. Now, with some schools, they provide certain questions for you to respond to with respect to the personal statement. Sometimes it's a closed list, and sometimes they allow you to also add whatever they did not ask. For other schools, however, they just give you a blank sheet to write as you please. But you should take into consideration all of these things. They want to hear about you. They want you to tell them who you are. They want to meet you before they meet you. And in telling them who you are, they want to feel your passion on the page, your passion for what you want to do. They want to know why you want to do it, and they want to know why they're at school. So your personal statement should be both compelling and well written. And please do not submit the first draft of your personal statement. Make sure you write it, allow for some time, come back to it again, allow for some time, come back again, and make sure that at the time you're sending it, you have edited it to the best possible ability that you can. Do your best also to give it to other people to take a look, your friends, those who have written personal statements and gotten into schools before, and other senior colleagues that might be helpful in that process. And one thing you must remember is the word limit. In many instances, there's an indication of a word limit for your personal statement. Do well to stick to that word limit. It will help you to do that. Also, like I mentioned before, be sure to check if there are specific questions they want you to respond to in your personal statement, or they're allowing you to do it as you please. These details are very important. Tell a story. I grew up in Port Harcourt, and at the age of 10, I witnessed environmental ills that affected my city through energy pollution. As a result, I became interested in helping to solve energy issues. That is why I'm applying for a master's in energy law. These are very important things to consider when telling your story through a personal statement. I'm happy to review a limited number of personal statements. My details are shown on the screen, social media handles, or my personal email address. Some schools would request a research proposal or a short academic write-up. I'm also willing to review a limited number of these if you can reach out to me. Also, some schools would request an English language test result. In many cases for US schools, it's something that can be waived, as long as you can show that you did your university studies in English or that you have written and published in English before. So make sure to ensure that all of these things are taken care of. Now we move to step 6. Step 6, apply for scholarships. This is as important as applying for admission. Now, I've talked about this before, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. Some schools do have scholarships internally. Other schools have scholarships externally, so external bodies that give scholarships to those schools. I've mentioned a couple of them before. A school like Stanford, for instance, has just the Knight Hennessy Fellowship Program, which is a scholarship available across all its colleges, and it's very competitive. So you must understand the limitations as well as the opportunities. Some schools like NYU have merit-based scholarship. They have the Hauser Scholarship, which is full tuition and living expenses, the Vanderbilt, which is just full tuition, and the Dean's Award, which I got, which is partial tuition scholarship. Now, some of the schools have need-based scholarship, like Harvard, and very large endowments for that. And so with these schools, you are essentially explaining your financial condition and why you cannot afford to pay the fees, and then likely to get a scholarship in that regards. So do well to check out all the scholarships available for your school and apply to them. In addition, keep a list of all the deadlines for all of these scholarships. Have them have the deadlines and don't just change yourself. Apply to as many as you can. You never know which one you could get in for. Now let's move to step 7. Step 7 is the final step. Make sure all your documents are in order and submit. This is where you check that your transcripts are in. This is where you check that your reference letters have come in from all your recommenders. You check that you have paid the application fee. You check also that you have rightly filled out all the questions and your personal statement is ready to go. At this point, put together all of your documents and send in your application, then you're done. Now, be sure that you're sending it through the right platform. Like I said before, if it's LSAC, make sure you're sending it through that. If it's the portal of the school, make sure you're sending it through that. So, if you need help with explaining how the LSAC platform works, you can also reach out to me through my social media handles. So, these are the 7 steps that you need to get into a top school of your choice. I did this video to ensure that everyone can have access to get into a top school and attending. Please share with your friends, with your parents, with everyone that you know around you. It will be helpful to someone. And just before you go, remember that I mentioned that I got into NYU with a $25,000 partial tuition scholarship. However, I have $43,000 to fund for my tuition. I started a crowdfunding campaign about 15 days ago, and so far I've raised $3,500. I need your help to raise the rest, which is why I'm asking, please support my crowdfunder. Every little drop matters. $10, $20, 1,000 naira, 2,000 naira goes a long way to helping me meet my goal so that I can attend NYU in January 2021. The GoFundMe link has been provided on the screen. My social media handles have also been provided, so you can always reach out to me with any questions you might have. I indeed look forward to meeting you someday where you share with me your story of how this video helped you to get into a top school. Remember, Caleb needs your help to get to NYU. Please support me in this quest. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you all the best with your application.